Yeah, Dickie Oyred. If only I could do exactly the same, my friend. I have been. The air is blue next door, and it will be blue for a while yet. It was shocking. Absolutely shocking. And what's angered me the most from the performance is, listen, people care about the FA Cup, people don't care about the FA Cup, whatever. For what it's worth, I really wanted us to go deep into the FA Cup, so there's that, which now, of course, can't happen because we've been eliminated from it. But I was okay with the starting 11. I was okay-ish with the bench. I did say pre-match I would have liked a bit more strength on the bench, some more senior lads to call upon, maybe if it didn't go according to plan, which clearly it didn't. And credit to Plymouth, let's get out there early doors. Massive credit to Plymouth, like fair play, properly deserved, bodies on the line, defensively, so stubborn, so resolute. Like that Katic at the back was an absolute ball magnet, man mountain, like a heroic display from him, the absolute polar opposite to what we produce today. And you know what, some of the youngsters may get some criticism from some quarters, not from me, not for a single second, because it is the senior lads. And I'm aware of when you sort of really deep the performance and you think maybe the midfield did lack a bit of physicality because we never really earned the right to play or stamped our authority on the game, and I get all of that to do. But when you've got Federico Chiesa, Luis Diaz, Diogo Jota, and lastly Darwin Núñez on the pitch, Harvey Elliott falls into this bracket as well, actually, while I'm at it. And we can't produce any real moment of quality against a team bottom of the championship, with all due respect to Plymouth. Like, that's just not good enough. It's as simple as that. And we got what we deserved from it, because whilst Plymouth were exceptional and whilst they did defend wonderfully well, all credit to them again, certainly individually, absolutely outstanding. The keeper, some big saves towards the end as well. But yeah, from our perspective, solely from a Liverpool point of view, it was so far below the level. Regardless of the rotation, regardless of the team, regardless of the bench, I'm not asked. Too many senior lads, too many players there who we spent the first half an hour of the day talking about. It's an opportunity for them. Can you sort of force your way into Arne Slot's plans? Can you make yourself a real option moving forwards in the Premier League and Champions League? Well, I'm afraid on the evidence of today, the answer for quite a lot of them is no. Simple as that. Like, when we went 1-0 down, there was a few there, Chiesa, Diaz, Jota in particular, who've got an opportunity to grab the game by the scruff of the neck and say, I'm going to be a difference maker here. Not one of them. Not for a single second did it. Jota, with that one effort, it's a wonderful save to be fair, but outside of that, it was truly dreadful, wasn't it? Anyway, I'll dive into the chat. Mill Hale says, love Harvey, but he has a good game this season. Has he had a good game this season? Hard to see our Slot's opinion. And that's it. That's not just Harvey, by the way. I think there's a lot of lads who fall into that bracket today, to be honest with you. I'm with you, Diane. So disappointed. I mean, it is disappointing. And listen, again, bigger fish to fry. Champions League, Premier League, Carabao Cup final, I know. But that's not to say we just want to be out the FA Cup. Not for a single second am I going to sit here and suggest or even think that Arne Slot wanted to get knocked out today. I just don't buy it. He wouldn't have named the strongest team as he did. He'd have done the bench lads on the starting 11. He'd have fielded a team full of kids. The team we played against Shrewsbury a couple of years ago when we were mid-winter break, it'd have been something reminiscent of that in terms of the changes. It wasn't. It was, a makeshift team in certain quarters, but in others it was pretty strong. The front line itself, I will always keep coming back to that front line. That attacking quartet should have had enough to at least create something clear-cut. But it was just, honest to God, it was a hard. I thought the first 45 minutes was a really difficult watch, and then it just got worse. The more desperate I become for us to actually produce and somebody to step up and deliver something, the harder it got. Really did. Sarah says, only Endo can hold his head up high. Yeah, not one player stepped up, big sum ahead. And listen, I get people, and it's hard to disagree, I get people immediately going from what we just watched to the squad isn't good enough. But I don't buy, and I'm not on board with the fact that team and that squad that he sent to Plymouth, again, I would have liked to take a couple more senior lads to at least have the bench a bit stronger. I don't buy that wasn't good enough to get the job done. Just to a man, almost exclusively, every single one of them was below the level required today. And that's what it boils down to. Harvey Elliott, Chiesa, I've said it already, like, miles off it. Miles off it. Against the Plymouth side, that were always going to be up for it. Of course they were. It was up to us to make sure that it was a non-event. And we couldn't do that because the performance levels was so below par. Deep breath. Honestly. Lost in the midfield, surprising of Curtis Jones. Yeah, I don't know what the Curtis Jones thing was all about. I don't get it. I don't know why take him and then not bring him on. I really don't. He was clearly, I don't know, a safety net option. I don't know. I can't explain it. Yeah, listen. Of course it matters. Anyone who says it doesn't matter, it's nonsense. Absolute nonsense. The FA Cup is a major trophy. I've said it a million times. Liverpool, part of the reason Liverpool exists, as well as the joy and happiness that they often bring us, not today, and the journey along the way, is to win silverware. And that's an opportunity at that gone. Just fell by the wayside for no real reason. Like, we had a big rest last week as nobody went to PSV. Obviously, the Spurs game midweek was a relatively testing one, but not massively so. And I'm aware the derby's coming up, but you could have easily left Van Dijk, Alisson, Gravenberch, Salah at home and taken Gakpo, McAllister, Szoboszlai, a couple more big hitters along with you for the ride. I don't know. It will get dissected and unpicked and unpacked over the next 24, 48 hours, I'm certain of it. But listen, in the immediate aftermath, I can't get my head around what I've just watched, honestly. I don't really take much sort of credence from it in terms of what happens next in terms of the derby, to be honest. But ultimately, and John, this is right, sorry, but that doesn't take away from what we've just watched and the fact that seasoned international footballers, some of whom have got over 50 caps, some of whom have got over 50 Premier League appearances, just didn't stand up to be counted when we needed them most. It's as simple as that. I adore Harvey Elliott. Diogo Jota is one of the best finishers I've seen play for Liverpool. Not be foul of a side. And what was that? The quality was lacking so often, whether it be the cross, the decision making, the touch was off. Oh, God. So many howlers, Toby. I'm absolutely with you, mate. So many. On a day like today, you can afford one or two to have an off day, whatever. But when 5, 6, 7, and they're all your senior lads, you won't catch me in the next 10 minutes, 20 minutes for the player ranking show, digging out McConnell, Trey Naoni, Isaac Maguire, fill in more youngsters here, Trent Cohn-Doherty when he comes on, because that's not. They're there to facilitate and to give the other lads a rest in terms of the big hitters. They're not there to be your match winners. If they do, and they get a moment along the way, fucking joy, you know what I mean? But it's your Chiesas, your Jotas, your Diaz, your Elliots. They're the ones who need to win the game for you. They're the senior lads. And they've just produced whatever that was. Whatever that was, honestly. To be fair to Plymouth, again, defended absolutely phenomenally well. It wasn't a game for the faint-hearted. They did make it quite physical. We struggled to stand up to that in the early part, but that wasn't the story of the game for me. The story of the game was how just underwhelming we were. I went into it thinking there's no end to what this team squad can accomplish ultimately, and I come out of it thinking just left bereft and disappointed and confused by what I've just watched. I've got that super chat on screen, but I want to bring it back onto my screen so I can see it properly. And the FA Cup did derail our season a little bit last year. There's no two ways about that. We can't let this happen again. 100% agree with you. We have to guard against that massively, and that's by producing a response. What I will say is that the players that weren't there today, most of them did feature in that game that you're referring to last year. So there isn't as much crossover in terms of what this could mean, sort of psychologically. However, from a fan perspective, I am left wondering where some of these squad lads and the lads on the fringes are at. Because again, I went into this game thinking massive opportunity for Elliott, massive opportunity for insert player name here, and I come out of it thinking, well, that's kind of why you're not starting week in, week out. Anyway, John Edinger says, this just proves that FSG needs to stop being cheap and spend for players. You can't defend them Redmen, inverted commas. Now, I'll address the Redmen inverted commas thing because we're not an inverted commas, we are a real thing that exists. So that's bewildering. Do we really think the squad isn't good enough? Is that what we're saying? Like, genuinely? Or was it just the fact that Diaz, Jota, I've said them all the names, not going to fucking run through them again, had absolute stinkers. And they did have absolute stinkers. Like, we're in February now, 9th of Feb as we sit here, in the Carabao Cup final, top of the Premier League, top of the Champions League. And pretty much all season long, we've mostly said that Liverpool's squad is nigh on unrivaled in the Premier League, maybe in Europe. We've called upon the bench at times recently, and it's come up trumps for us. Darwin Núñez, Brentford, etc., 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 Jota, Forest, etc. I don't think, even though I'm front and centre with the people that are completely and utterly baffled by what we've just watched and annoyed by it ultimately and angry at it, I'm not going to immediately go from all of that stuff to like, well, this squad's not good enough, get rid of them all in the summer. That feels crazy to me, absolutely crazy. Like, I don't get that at all. Thanks for the super chat, but I fucking don't get that. I'm sorry. And listen, that I'm definitely not sitting here saying that what I've just watched is acceptable, because it wasn't. But I don't put that down to the strength or otherwise of the squad, or the fact that we didn't buy anyone in January. It's just that the players we do have and the squad players we do have that have often been saviours for us today were anything but. Anything but. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up in a second on this. Rob Hayes, they're just not good enough. Is that true? That's also not true at all. In fact, it's the opposite of true. So, yeah, I semi-wish that was the case, to be honest, because I wouldn't have so much money left on my mortgage if that was the case. But it's just, all this, Jeff, for that matter. Oh, my God. To the end of that. Just nonsense. Every part of it, quite frankly. Every part of it. Robert says, we're competing against a team of corner spamming bums who should be winning the league title. Then you are defending them, Dan. I would have liked Liverpool to sign players in January. I said that from the 1st of January till the 3rd of February in the window closed. I would have signed a backup defensive midfielder to take some of the pressure and alleviate some of the minutes off Ryan Gravenberch. And I would have potentially looked at the left-back thing, but probably not. I would have left that till the summer, if I'm being really honest. Likewise, the centre-forward thing, I might have left that till the summer as well. But when we were into Kvaratskhelia, I was very excited about that. I would have 100% been all over that if that's a deal we could have done. However, I'm not going to sit here and call absolutely everybody out of the football club when we sat top of the Premier League, top of the Champions League, etc. However, again, that's not to say I'm not fuming with the fact that we've just been eliminated at FA Cup by Plymouth, because I am. Nobody wanted us to beat Plymouth more than me. Nobody. I'm sorry. I don't care. Literally nobody. No, if you'd have seen me through there, you'd have understand what I'm talking about. I'm fuming about what I've just watched. It was shite, okay? I can't say that clearly enough. It was absolute shite. I'm with you, but I'm not a dick. I'm not going to sit here and say that the squad's not good enough. We need to bin off the owners. We need to do this, that, and the other. It's just not true, like, you know what I mean? Anyway, Hanson Wetzel says, the players in the squads are more content being bench warmers, academy players, and fighting for a spot in the. Do you know what? That is a more valid point based on what we've just watched again, because I've said it a million times now. Today was a huge chance for some of these fringe players. You know, Jota maybe not so much, because he comes in at the first team whenever he's fit, whenever he's actually sharp. So there's a different conversation there. But for Harvey Elliott, for Chiesa, Diaz a little bit, I'd say, some of the others as well. This was an opportunity, a moment. Certainly when we go 1-0 down, all of a sudden it's a massive opportunity for them to be the hero, to rescue us, to get us through to the next round of the FA Cup. And not one of them stood up to that test. Therefore, it's hard to sit here and draw conclusions other than the fact that, well, when it comes to the next Premier League opportunity, the next Champions League, whatever, they're not going to be in the manager's thoughts, because his most recent memory will be of what he's just watched there, and it was nowhere near good enough. Nowhere near good enough. Louis Stewart says, look, far from ideal, a lot of players an off day. Yeah, listen, yeah, that we live to fight another day in so many ways. That the season cannot be derailed by this. I'm completely on board with that, obviously. And if we end the season with 1, 2, 3 pieces of silverware, we can look back on this as just a blip in otherwise wonderful campaign. But again, sitting here 20 minutes after the full-time whistle, we're still allowed to be properly pissed off by what we just watched, because nobody will be more aware of how unacceptable that was than Arne Slot and the players involved. I'm certain of it. And again, I put no blame at the door of the youngsters that are involved or the academy lads, because that's not right. It's just not right. They're not the ones who are supposed to drag us over the line in those circumstances. That falls upon the senior players, unfortunately. Brian Woodward. Surely one of the midfield three should have started. Jones is fourth in the pecking order, doesn't use him. Yeah, I don't know, but honestly, I can't explain the Jones thing. I'd love to know why he was an unused substitute in that performance. I really would. I don't know. I can't help you. But I'm with you on the general point. And again, I referenced this pre-match, so the receipt is there. I would have liked to have seen, and I like all the youngsters. Everyone knows I watch a lot of the academy lads. I've got a lot of time for a lot of the young footballers that we own. And I'd love to see them given chances at first team level. I absolutely do. However, I would have taken one or two more senior options for that bench, personally, just in case it went awry. And it fucking went awry. It went awry, big style. AJ Boy says, bad day, fuck it, take it out on Everton Wednesday, never walk alone. Yeah, that's the hope now, isn't it? That's all we can do. We've got to respond in the best possible manner. And again, it'll be a completely different 11. But the question marks over some of them lads today that didn't deliver, in fact, did the opposite of delivering in some cases, remain. And people who do, have validity in the argument that the squad isn't good enough, or that this player, that player, whoever individually isn't to the standard required. Unfortunately, again, the most recent proof and the most recent evidence stacks up. Yes, Lewis. Sorry, another super chat. Exactly, and that's. I was hoping and praying so much to walk away from this game, obviously having won it first and foremost, but to go to Wednesday and be like, well, Harvey Elliott's given himself, or he's done his chances loads of favours because how good he was on Sunday. But it's the opposite of that. The team picks itself on Sunday. The team picks itself next weekend, and so on, based on the evidence of today. It just does. And it pains me to say it because I can't tell you how much of a fan I am of some of the lads that played today. Harvey Elliott, front and centre of that, but it just wasn't good enough. Like, it just wasn't. And I hate saying it about players that play for Liverpool because it's not my style at all. People who've watched me for a while will know that. But it's truthful today. It's factual. I can't lie to you. Like, I'd love to, but I can't. Anyway, I dive back into the chat. It was Diogo Jota became captain. Cisse for a little bit. Shocking coaching performance. I think Elliott might be off to Brighton this summer already. We need a James Milne-like player who can be more physical across the pitch. But Endo stood up relatively well, to be honest. Tsimikas was poor. Delivery was miles off it. Miles off it. Elliott and Chiesa were off. The Chiesa frustrated the life out of me towards the back end of that game, I'll be dead honest. Because it felt like most of our semi-moments, most of our chances to create something fell to him. And every time, almost, it was just not it. Like, the delivery was overhit, the pass was underhit, his touch was off, he got to the byline and doesn't deliver. Oh, it was painful. Really, really painful at times. But honestly, the last 10, 15 minutes of that game were excruciating. Absolutely excruciating. And again, that should tell you how much I was desperate for us to get over the line in that game, or get to extra time at that point. Honestly, I'd have bitten your hand off at any sort of goal off anyone's arse. Jay, thank you. I don't mind the chat, mate. Listen, I don't mind. There was none of that. At times, sorry to come back to tactics, Jay, I love you. I'll see you soon. It was like Kwanzaa was driving into midfield. I didn't mind that, but it was the link man. There was no connection between the midfield and the attack. It was like, who was the person getting into that space and occupying the areas where Plymouth didn't want him to be? It was just open season in there. And then every time we delivered, that Katic was heading it away. Like, painful 90-odd minutes of my life. I thought, to be honest with you, we touched lucky when the 9 minutes went up on the end, because I didn't think... We were running out of time rapidly, it felt like. Let's put it like that. And then all of a sudden, 9 minutes goes up on the board and you think, that's it then. That's it. We've been saved by stoppage time, because that is a long time. And we were at least getting into the final third a lot, and Plymouth had sat deeper than ever. But what do we conjure up? Really, very little. The Jota effort, the Nunes header which is tipped over, Kelleher heads just straight to the keeper at the end. But honestly, honest to God. Couple more super chats and I will wrap up and head over to the board for what will be a joyous experience of ranking the players. There is some bad head loss going on. Call the performance shy, but don't lose your head. Slot won't be happy with the senior players, though. Endo doing your own respectable shift. Yeah, that 100% my fault. 100% my fault. Listen, I get the aftermath and the immediacy and the annoyance, because I'm with you on that, and I've lost my head a little bit as well with that performance. But there's a fine line between losing your head and sort of unraveling everything that we've done all season long. I'm not gonna go that far. But at the same time, we can call a spade and say that was fucking far from good enough, which is kind of where I'm at. Yeah, the senior players, though, I agree with that point entirely. Nowhere near. That's my only gripe, really, today, aside from the result, of course, is with the senior lads. I have no animosity whatsoever towards the academy lads. Like, genuinely don't. Collectively, they played about 15 games between them, some of them. Trenko and Doherty debut, Mabaya debut, McConnell might have played 5 or 6 times for the first team, and I thought he was okay at times, McConnell, to be honest. But yeah, the lads at the top end of the pitch in particular, who you need to come up with the goods. Marcus Ward, blaming today's result in FSG is brain dead. He's letting shit performances off the hook for that broken record rhetoric. Senior players were terrible, 100%. This. And listen, when we get beat by Plymouth, fucking bottom of the Championship Plymouth, it gives a lot of credence and a lot of empowerment to people who want FSG out of the football club, which is fine, by the way. Don't have a problem with people having that opinion whatsoever. For what it's worth, they've made some horrendous mistakes down the years, done some really good stuff down the years as well. I wish they spend more money, so sound. Have your opinion. Go for it. Fucking knock yourselves out. I'm not bothered. But to go from senior lads have a shit day, proper below par performance, beat by Plymouth, to FA Cup exit, but we're still top, we're still this, we're still that, the other. The owners need to leave. I don't quite marry that up personally. But again, you do you. Don't listen to the haters, Dan. We're all upset, but some people are just misdirecting the disappointment in you. Listen, I don't mind, mate. Mortov Ducks back. Don't bother me in the slightest. Because again, I'm kind of with some of it, to be honest. Rory says, would have gone with Sim 11, though. There could have been a stronger bench if we weren't winning the second half. Still chance of 3 trophies. Yeah, that entirely. I was comfortable with the 11, especially again when you look at the firepower at the top end of it. I do wonder whether we might have had a little bit more in the tank in reserve on the bench, just in case we needed it. But too late now. Too late now. Connoisseur, it was very disjointed, so I take the point on the lack of sort of coherence and fluidity in the performance. Absolutely. I'm not sure Slot. The only place I would park blame really when it comes to the manager is that bench. Genuinely. And I'm not being critical of the lads that are on there, but I would have and I don't really know which ones I would have left out, but I definitely would have taken 1 or 2 more of the first team. But yeah. God, that was dreadful. Not the show, although, you may think so. The performance, crap. Absolutely. Somebody said their Slot didn't see Mars. I do want to hear from Slot in a minute in terms of his mood and how critical or otherwise he was of that performance. I am intrigued by that. Anyway, I'll wrap this bit up because it's time to rate the players, which would be fun, won't it? Ooh, the gloves are off. Let's do this. Thanks for joining me for this bit. I hope you vented some of your anger. I vented a little bit of mine. I feel slightly less sick than I did 20 minutes ago, which I guess is a positive. I'm going to go over to the board now and rate all Liverpool's players from that absolute shit show. I'll see you there.